What's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler, and today we are going to be looking at the Cincinnati Bengals in day number 7 of my 32 straight days of 32 NFL previews, as my hat is basically crooked. Fix that, because it's going to be a lot. The Bengals last season finished with the worst record in the entire NFL with 2-14, which led them to get the number 1 overall draft pick in the NFL draft, which it took Joe Burrow out of LSU to be the quarterback of their future. And if he is good as people think he is, he's going to be really, really good given his final season at LSU, where he broke an immense amount of NCAA passing records. He also got a nice offense around him already there. Joe Mixon in the backfield to be a nice handoff option and a checkdown option, similar to who Clyde Edwards-Helaire was for him at LSU. Got some nice passing options too. John Ross is a speedster when healthy. A.J. Green is still one of the best receivers when he's healthy. Tyler Boyd has emerged into a great receiver, or a really good receiver, I should say. And T. Higgins, who at Clemson was one of the best in all of college football. And as someone who is a Syracuse University student, I got to see Higgins a lot, tearing up the Syracuse University defense. The one concern I have is this defense, speaking of defense, of the Cincinnati Bengals. Not so much the talent, but more so because the AFC North offenses project to be really, really good. You got the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. You got the Browns in their passing game with Baker Mayfield, OBJ, Jarvis Landry, as well as the running game with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And then you got the Steelers, who look to be much better after a slew of injuries hurt them last year. Ben Roethlisberger's back, James Conner's back, Juju Smith-Schuster's back. I just think it will be tough for the Bengals defense to thrive. I do think the Bengals are going to struggle once again. I have them improving, but that is what expected of this team. The Bengals are building for success during the entire decade of the 2020s, not just in the year 2020. Looking at the full schedule, I'll leave it down below with the win-loss projections, which games I think they can win versus lose. Also, in the description, I'll leave the link to the full playlist of all the previews I've done thus far, the first 6, right? Yes, 6. I had to count it out real quick. Yeah, double check because, it's a crazy time we're living in. Math is hard. Week 1, they take on the Chargers. I think that's a game right there. You got Justin Herbert possibly starting for the Chargers. Most likely it'll be Tyrod Taylor. But Herbert was taken 6th overall in the draft. Joe Burrow, obviously number 1 overall. The battle of the future young quarterbacks. Who knows? That game, I do have them losing, the Bengals. But it's a nice game to start off. It's partially because that defense, too, is really good for the Chargers. I think it gets not talked about enough. Week 2, they take on the Browns on the road and Philadelphia in Week 3 on the road. Those 2 games will be nice tests for them just to see where they stack up early on. Week 4 at home versus Jacksonville. That's probably where they'll get their first win, just because the Jaguars are still kind of in a similar spot as the Bengals. They're not ready to compete yet. They got some young pieces, but they're not there quite yet. Week 5, they take on the Ravens on the road. This is just a test to see whether or not the defense can hold up. Week 6, they take on Indianapolis on the road as well. I keep going back and forth of whether or not the Bengals will win this game. I do have them winning it, but who really knows? Phillip Rivers could pull one out in what looks to be his final year in the NFL, or second to last year in the NFL. Week 7, they take on the Browns, and Week 8, they take on the Titans. Another 2 games right there that will just test the Bengals defense. The Browns from a passing standpoint and a rushing standpoint to some degree, and the Titans primarily from a rushing standpoint, as they have the best running back in all of football, or the league's leading rusher in football from a year ago in Derrick Henry. That was a messed up way of saying it, but you get my point, hopefully. Week 9, they have their bye week, and it works out well for them because they play 8 games before their bye, 8 games after their bye, so there's a nice balance there. Speaking of their bye week, they come out of it Week 10, they go on the road to Pittsburgh. I actually have the Bengals winning one of their games against the Steelers this year. Not so much because I think the Steelers are going to be a bad team at all, but I think the Bengals could pull one out here. It's just one of those things where who knows? The Steelers can get caught looking ahead a week where the Bengals could really, really perform and the Steelers just come out flat. Week 11 to Week 13, this is probably the stretch of games where I'm most excited for and see the most opportunity for wins for the Bengals. I do have them only going 1-2 during the stretch, but they can easily go 3-0. Week 11, they play Washington. Week 12, they play the Giants. And Week 13, they play Miami. Week 11, you'll take number 1 overall pick in Burrow, taking on the number 2 overall pick in Chase Young, an elite pass rusher, arguably the number 1 prospect in this past year's draft. These two guys will be linked forever, being that fact that they were 1-2, similar to that of Cam Newton and Von Miller, who went 1-2 in 2011. And maybe Young could have the same success Miller did against his number 1 overall pick counterpart quarterback in Burrow, as Miller did to Newton, like he did in Super Bowl 50 back in 2015. This is going to be the start of many matchups, I think, between these two young stars. It'll be interesting to watch. Week 12 versus the Giants, another battle of two young quarterbacks. Daniel Jones for the Giants, Burrow for the Bengals. God, my words are getting tongue-tied here. Excuse me. Just two young quarterbacks, I think. I do have the Giants winning this game, but the Bengals, once again, they're going to be at home for this one. They can pull one out. Finally, Week 13. This is the one, actually, during the stretch I have them winning. I have them losing to Washington, losing to the Giants. I have them beating Miami. In this game, I'm only excited for one reason and one reason only. If Tua Tagovailoa is starting for the Dolphins, which I think he probably will, barring his injury status, Tagovailoa is expected to be the number 1 overall pick entering this past college football season. He had the injuries. Burrow had the record-breaking season, and it went on to be that Burrow went 1, Tagovailoa went 5. These two guys will be locked at the hips for their entire careers, given what could have been if Tagovailoa was healthy and played a full season. He probably would have gone number 1. And this will be another thing where these two guys will have many matchups in the future, being that they play in the AFC. And I'm excited to see who gets round 1. Week 14, they go to Dallas, or they take on Dallas at home. Week 15, they take on the Steelers at home. Week 16, they go at Houston. In Week 17, they play at home against Baltimore. So a tougher stretch there to finish out the season. But overall, I have them going 4-12. Improvement from the year prior. But I honestly could see this team, they could go up to 6-10. They could beat the Giants. They could beat the Redskins. They can maybe take one more game in their own division. They could beat the Colts. They could beat the Chargers. Who really knows? They can go up to 6-10, not 7-9 even. Although I don't see it happening, it's very, very possible. From looking at their schedule, though, these are 5 games I'm most looking forward to. Week 5 against the Ravens, I mentioned. The Ravens are the top dog in the AFC North as it currently stands. Let's see if the Bengals, how they hold their own here. On the road in a tough environment in Baltimore, I'm eagerly waiting to see, especially how Burrow performs against a really good defense in the Ravens. Week 8, Titans at Bengals. Like I mentioned, Derrick Henry, the league's leading rusher from a year ago. Let's see how this defense holds up against a top running back. Weeks 11 and 13, I think I've talked about those enough. Young versus Burrow in Week 11. Burrow versus Tagovailoa in Week 13. It's just going to be one of those matchups where this is the future of the NFL right here. Week 11 and Week 13, Burrow, Young, Tagovailoa, 3 really great talents. And finally, Week 14, Dallas at the Bengals. I think that the Cowboys, they got a really good offense with Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. Another good test for the Bengals defense. And also, the defense of the Cowboys is not that bad. We'll see how Burrow performs on a big stage against a team in Dallas that looks to have their eyes on the playoffs. Who knows? Maybe he can pull one out if he is as all about the moment as he projects to be, Burrow is. Overall, though, I really don't think the Bengals, like I said, they're building for success in the decade of the 2020s, not just success in the year 2020. But let me know what you think down below in the comments. Do you think the Bengals will improve immensely in this season in terms of wins, losses, or will they kind of just incrementally go up in terms of wins? I have them going up by 2, but who knows? Maybe they can go up by 4. Or will the Bengals go backwards? Will they be 2-14 again? Will they be 1-15? Will they go 0-16? Who knows? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank y'all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you're liking this series, leave a like on this video. I've never asked you to do that, but I can see other YouTubers doing it, so why not me? I mean, come on. Gotta get it. Leave your comments down below if you're liking the series as well. Next episode, day number 8, will be a quarter. It will reach the 25% mark, and we're talking about the dog pound, the Cleveland Browns, the AFC North rivals of the Cincinnati Bengals. So stay tuned for that. Thank y'all so much again once for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.